best show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
It doesn't matter that they're early in the game, late in the game, they're trailing, they're leading. It doesn't matter, garbage time. CeeDee Lamb is the guy, and we saw that even after Dak got hurt last year and Cooper Rush was under center. Targets were going to CeeDee Lamb. And when you can get 9, 10, 12, 15 targets on a game-by-game basis, he's going to rack up fantasy points every single week. Frankly, he underperformed last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Answer is this. 12-team, 3 wide receiver, you take Jamar Chase. In a 10-team league, though, where you have only 2 wide receivers to start, it's an interesting supply and demand situation with a roster like that. That is where the Bijan number 1 overall maybe comes into play, because you could take Bijan and then turn around. You're still getting 2 number 1 wide receivers in a 10-team league draft.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Happy Friday to you. It's a football Friday. We got plenty of college football to review. Bill Bender from Sporting News makes his first appearance of the year breaking down games here on the show. We'll also have a full preview of one of the big games tomorrow night in Week 0. Stanford takes on Hawaii, a game that you can watch on CBS. And doing play-by-play for the game is Rich Waltz. He's going to join us. He's in Hawaii, and he'll talk about what we can expect tomorrow night. Also, we'll go over the latest in the NFL with Adam Kaplan and get to the latest injury news, notes, and, of course, information as well. So locked and loaded on this Friday we go. Let's get to our top stories in sports betting as we close out the week. We'll start off in the NBA. Good news for Malik Beasley. He's no longer a target of the federal gambling investigation that was conducted by the Eastern District of New York. You may remember the story at the end of the NBA season, some potential improprieties in terms of sports betting with props. No way, shape, or form does this indict him like it did Jonte Porter. So as of right now, looks like no longer under investigation, and opens free agency for a player who is expected to sign a pretty big contract. He's a free agent right now. All right, let's get to DraftKings. They make a very big decision. For those of you who live in states where you can bet on sports and you use DraftKings and you want to use your credit card, you're going to have to think of another way. They don't want you putting debt on that card. That's the bottom line. DraftKings sends an email to users saying, hey, look, you got to use a different form of deposit. You can do it a lot of different ways, but it's not going to be a credit card anymore. You still can use your debit card, and you can use a bank withdrawal, etc., but no loading up credit cards and getting yourself in debt anymore. Pretty good move. Southeastern Conference announces next season they're keeping it in the SEC. They're adding a 9-game conference schedule starting in 2026. They've been talking about it for years with a lot more teams in the SEC. And so now each team will face every other SEC program at least once every 2 years. And this used to happen every 5 or 6 years. Now they've limited it to 2, so it looks like all the teams in the SEC will end up playing each other. They still have to play at least one high-quality non-conference opponent from the ACC, Big 10, or Big 12, or Notre Dame moving forward. Last night, the Giants put an offensive show up on the board. Really impressive, by the way, against the New England Patriots. Jackson Dart had a nice game before leaving with an injury. Jameis Winston threw a touchdown pass. Even Tommy DeVito got in on the action. He was 17 of 20 for 198 yards and 3 touchdowns. So New York enters the regular season putting a 42 spot on the New England Patriots. Not the best look for Mike Vrabel on the other side with the New England Patriots, but doesn't seem to be too fazed about it.
How did you come to the decision to approach the game you did with Drake and a lot of starters sidelined?
Just on a short week, and we had a couple good days that you guys, were able to watch, and so that's kind of where I was, and decided to do that and give us a chance to evaluate some other players.
Big picture, state of the team. How do you feel about this roster going into the regular season with a preseason review now?
Well, again, we're going to continually try to, strengthen the roster every way we can. There's a couple options, right? You can, try to trade for players. You could try to claim some players next week. So, again, we're always going to be trying to strengthen the roster, and that's what we'll try to do here over the course of the next 10 days.
Just a quick note, by the way, on rookie Jackson Dart, who was running up the field, didn't slide, and then got hit. I was actually watching this when it happened. No concussion for him. He did leave the game, cleared protocol, but got a slide, Jackson. Come on. Steelers win 19-10 in their final preseason game in Carolina. Skylar Thompson, former quarterback with the Dolphins, who's now with the Steelers, was almost perfect, 11 of 13, 152 yards. And 1 touchdown. The Steelers haven't played all that well, not getting any wins in the preseason. Mike Tomlin talked about finally getting a win yesterday.
It's good to get a win. It's some good. It's a lot of things that you don't like, to be quite honest with you. I thought we were highly penalized. We turned the ball over there early. The tackling was shaky at best at times. I think they had 100 yards rushing at the half, and that's just kind of indicative of how poor the tackling was at times. And so we got some things to work on, but it's good to do that with a victory. That's why you step into stadiums to win. Really happy for Ben Sauls. The work he was able to show us tonight, man, good for him. Had a couple of injuries of note. Derek Harmon's got a knee sprain of some description. He's being evaluated. Brandon Johnson's got a foot injury of some description. He's also being evaluated. Those are the 2 significant injuries. Some other bumps and bruises associated with play, but nothing of note at this point other than those 2.
All right, now will look like maybe a significant injury for Lamar Jackson, but the good news for him is a little scare, nothing more. He was stepped on, and after practice, he was evaluated and looks like he's basically going to be ready for practice next week, although he did miss practice yesterday. Here's John Harbaugh, who seemingly took it a lot more serious than we were led to believe yesterday.
Yeah, he got his foot stepped on, like we said yesterday. I think Chad had mentioned that. They did a quick x-ray, and there's no damage or anything like that. I'm sure it's a little sore today, so we just kept him in, but he's fine. He's going to be good.
How much of a relief was that for you after hearing that news?
It was a big relief, yeah. I told the guys, I said, prayers do get answered, because I was praying. And God came through. So, but he's good.
Well, I guess he came through for Lamar Jackson. Johnny Wilson, not so much. He got also rolled up in practice. He's on the Eagles. He's a wide receiver. He's out for the season. 4 preseason games tonight. Speaking of the Eagles, they're at the Jets. Philly at New York minus 1.5. Vikings at the Titans minus 3.5. Falcons at Cowboys minus 2.5. And then the Bears will wrap up their preseason against the Kansas City Chiefs. Meanwhile, tough scene for Yankees fans yesterday. Red Sox have had their number all season long, and that continued yesterday with a lot of errors on the side of the Yankees. They had 4. Yankees also walked 9 batters on the Red Sox. Boston wins 6-3 to open up a 4-game series. Roman Anthony also hit a late home run to put this one away. Aaron Boone certainly not happy with the defensive performance.
Yeah, just not a real clean game for us. Obviously, a lot of free bases there. So, for the most part in the first half of the game, we're able to overcome them. Louis made a lot of big pitches when he needed to. We were able to get out of a lot of jams, and then, they made us pay on the last air there with the homer. But just not a great night for us.
A lot. It's exciting to be here. It's exciting to, I got to play them at home my first week, and now that I'm settled in and through that first week, this time around felt a little bit more calm, a little bit more controlled, and I just felt better. It was exciting.
I'm sure you've watched a lot of games in the stadium. What was it like playing in the stadium?
It was awesome. Quite the atmosphere, especially for us, and we know the rivalry, and it was exciting.
Brewers pick up another win against the Cubs, so they end up losing the series, but they didn't get pummeled in it. They win 4-1. Quinn Priester with a nice game. They've built an 8-game lead. Craig Counsell said they probably needed to win all these games, potentially to win the division. Priester has been pitching fantastic. Also left the game with the bases loaded. Bullpen came in. Defense did a good job. Here's Priester.
Quinn, what can you say about the job Mears and then the rest of the guys did behind you today?
Yeah, it was incredible. You know, from the situation I put Mears in, certainly not one I want to put my teammates in, but, you know, knowing him, he kind of thrives in those situations, and to come away with just, you know, one and able to hold it there the rest of the game. You know, granted a great job, Uribe, Koenig, I mean, everybody down the stretch did a really nice job outside of, you know, me getting the bases loaded there in the fifth. But it's a team game. Certainly a lot of things to clean up on my end. But I mean, when you have guys like that behind you, you keep, even if guys are on base, you keep, runs off the board, we've got a chance.
The Colorado Rockies finally lose a game to the Dodgers. It was Clayton Kershaw with a nice one. Manny Machado, 3 RBIs. Padres beat the Giants. They win 3 out of 4. We'll talk football with Bill Bender next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
You can find odds for the Phoenix Mercury win the WNBA final. I'm saying it right now. Until I get Stewie back, and they can show me with Stewie, with Messerman, with Stewart, with John Quell, with Ionescu, with Phoenix, until I can see the Liberty look like the Liberty, which they have not been for a while, I'll be willing to say that Phoenix Mercury could make the WNBA finals.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Justin Rose has done it so many times in his career. That's like he's so good at everything. There's nothing that he's bad at. Every part of his game is at close to a elite level when it's good. And so when he had it going on this week, he's not scared, dude. When he gets that look in his eye, watch out.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. So you're going out for a big meal and you're going to a nice restaurant, but you hear that the appetizers are better than the meal. That's the best way that I could describe what's about to happen in the next 2 weeks in the college football season as we bring in Bill Bender. Maybe that's just stupid, but it feels like, Bill, that, we're going to get some okay appetizers this week, and then the meal will come next week. I got to tell you, I don't know a ton about a lot of the players that are playing in these games this weekend, but I am just so thankful to have college football back that I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm happy about week 0, but my family, we went out to dinner last night, then we were trying to get ice cream from the grocery store, and we spent like 10 minutes arguing over which one to get. So the good news there is everything tastes good, when you have week 0. All of these games will be fun, and no arguments with my daughter about which one we need to grab.
All right. Are you a Ben and Jerry's guy? Are you Haagen-Dazs? Which direction are you going?
We were looking for Edie's. I'm like, but like my
Edie's,
kids
okay.
like vanilla ice cream, and I'm like, there's more than just
What's the
vanilla in
point?
this world. So this
What's
is
the
poor
point?
parenting on my part.
Nah, you did fine, Bill. You tell them to take Iowa State plus the points. I'm just kidding. All right, so that's the marquee game tomorrow. Noon Eastern time. They're playing in Dublin, Ireland. So they got to make the game at this time. I know it's probably the best game, but nothing much we can do about that. Kansas State opened up as 2.5. They're up to 3.5-point favorites. Total pretty much has been around where it is, 50.5. Iowa State's ranked 22nd. Kansas State is ranked 17th. What do you feel going into this Farmageddon overseas?
Oh, it's going to be fun. I think, first of all, Rocco Becht, you're going to hear over and over again, how do they pass the ball after losing a pair of 1,000-yard receivers to the Houston Texans, essentially. Last year, you look at him throwing the ball down the field, 43.9%, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. And how do those numbers change? Avery Johnson, meanwhile, he's kind of all or nothing when he throws the ball down the field. There are moments where he looks fantastic. There are moments where he'll turn the ball over, and I think that'll be the difference. If Kansas State can protect that football, they had 2 turnovers in this game last year, and run the ball well, both teams will run the ball well, and then leave that little bit of the room for the unexpected that happens in Dublin, I do think they'll win. It's a scary pick, though, because that line hasn't moved much, and that tells me I think there's some faith in Kansas State to get it done here.
Maybe so. Kansas State, by the way, favored for the first time to win the conference in a while, plus 500. Usually it is Utah or Baylor, TCU. Iowa's been favored before, but naturally K-State plus 500. Arizona State is right there. Bill, who was your pick to win this conference this season? I forget.
I had Arizona State, but it's a very lukewarm prediction. I know how hard it's going to be to repeat, especially losing Cam Scatterbo. I do love Sam Leavitt, Jordan Tyson. I like their schedule. But, Kansas State will be in the mix. We talked about, Kansas plays later on Saturday as well. Jayhawks can be kind of that sleeper, interesting team with Jalen Daniels. BYU, if their quarterback situation works out. And Baylor's an interesting sleeper that plays that week 1 game against Auburn on Friday night. Sawyer Robertson was as good as anybody late in the season last year.
I can't keep up with these huge games. I didn't even realize that was next Friday. Okay. So the Dan Mullen era in UNLV in Vegas begins. So I don't think there's any question that if you're looking for maybe an over for a team win total, I think he's going to try and score as many points as he can on Idaho State. But here's the deal, as has always been, Bill. UNLV just doesn't play defense on football. They just don't. And so they tend to give up a lot of points. The total is 65.5. Which really tells you everything you need to know, that the Rebels are going to score some points, but so is Idaho State. Is this a line where you would lay 26.5, or do you like something else here?
Well, right there, I think, that feels like 45-21, something like that. And the flash factor with Dan Mullen is very real. A couple things to look for long-term with the Rebels over the next 2 weeks. If they show something here and put up a bunch of points, like you say, and I believe that's what they'll do, and then Boise State turns around and loses on Thursday night somehow to South Florida, which isn't out of the realm of the possibility. That's a tricky opener. The whole group of 5 playoff outlook is going to shake up a lot. And UNLV, who is already a team that a lot of people are picking, could jump up and become kind of that group of 5 favorite around Dan Mullen. And I do know when you watch this game Saturday, there's going to be like, oh, yeah, that guy, Alex Orji, Michigan quarterback, Vontez Burfict on the sideline. They've got a who's who of transfer players on that roster.
Okay. Kansas, by the way, goes as Jalen Daniels goes. When he's healthy, they're a team that can contend and maybe even push their way into a playoff situation because he's fantastic. They're 12.5-point favorites, and the total is 50.5. What does this line say? Does it say that Fresno State's pretty good? Because, obviously Kansas doesn't necessarily want to get into a shootout with a team like Fresno.
Yeah, and they got the renovated Memorial Stadium. The crowd should be pretty jacked up. Jalen Daniels played a lot of football, right? So I think that makes it very interesting. But I look for Fresno State to hang around here. E.J. Warner, Kurt Warner's son, quarterback for them. Solid program. They went into Michigan last year and hung around, and I think they can get into this game and at least keep it close. Still like Kansas to win by double digits, maybe a 10-point game. But I could totally see the Bulldogs hanging around at least into the second half.
Western Kentucky takes on Sam Houston State, team I don't know much about, but I know that Western Kentucky's undergone a ton of changes. They're looking to get back, Bill, to what they used to be, which is putting up 50s and 60s on offense and playing good defense. You think they do that on Saturday?
Maverick McIver, Abilene Christian transfer at quarterback. He could light it up here. It's hard to predict, and this is, I was telling you on the break, kind of a stay away game for me. But if you're going to do it, I think it's going to be right on that 10-point line. Both teams, a ton of transfers. Phil Longo, the new Sam Houston coach, that's another familiar face.
Hawaii takes on Stanford, and the game is actually 7:30. I thought, Bill, this game would be played like at midnight, but for the first game of the season, they're doing it during the day on the island. They're 2.5-point favorites over Stanford with a total of 50.5. Last year, Bill, what was the narrative? UCLA taking on Hawaii. Hawaii's dangerous. They're at home. Boy, they were not dangerous at all. They got smashed. What do you think happened Saturday?
Hawaii 0-6 straight up against Power 4 opponents. Frank Reich gets the Stanford Cardinal a victory here. A small upset. That line's tricky. I don't like it, but I'm going to take the Cardinal to pull the upset.
Bill, enjoy week one. Next week, I don't know that we'll even have enough time to go over all of the big games next week. It's incredible week one. Thanks again, Bill, for coming on.
Hey, thank you.
Sound Off's up next.
They get some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
He played with Bobby Mack, literally had a nervous breakdown the entire round, and by the time they got to the fourth hole, he was losing by a stroke. It was, you think Tommy Fleetwood's a train wreck. You should have seen what this poor guy went through yesterday playing with him.
Yeah, you know what I want to say in this too? The winner gets the entire pot of earnings.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Answer is this. 12-team, 3 wide receiver, you take Jamar Chase. In a 10-team league, though, where you have only 2 wide receivers to start, it's an interesting supply and demand situation with a roster like that. That is where the Bijan number 1 overall maybe comes into play, because you could take Bijan and then turn around. You're still getting 2 number 1 wide receivers in a 10-team league draft.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid as we get ready for the final couple of days of the NFL preseason and on to the regular season we go. Let's check in on the Rams quarterbacking situation. We'll do the same with the Browns and also get into the fights going on with Jacksonville and Miami. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. Let's begin with the unknown situation going on with the Los Angeles Rams. Less clarity is more of what we're getting. So Matthew Stafford has been back at practice doing individual drills, seemingly throwing to some receivers, and then opening himself up for questions afterward yesterday. That's the good news. The bad news is that there are some questions that even Stafford does not want to answer. Boy, this is a bizarre situation heading into the NFL's regular season. Here's Stafford after practice yesterday. Good news is that his paper cut is okay.
You guys all want to talk about this paper cut I got last night? Opening some mail. That's what I figured. Fire away. I can't hear you. Oh, good. Yeah, we glued it up. It felt great. Spun it around pretty good. Thanks for asking. I'm not going to talk too much specifics or anything like that. But as far as what I've done, everything under the sun, I feel like. Obviously, our guys here have a great program, doing everything we can to try and get to feeling as good as I can. Done that, and just really everything I could possibly do. Done a ton of research, just trying to help myself out. And good thing is I feel pretty good the last couple of days out there practicing. Was able to do even a little bit more than I thought I was going to be able to do the first day, and then just been trying to stack days. Backs are sometimes, interesting things. It's not, cut and dry what's what and how you're going to feel. So I really appreciate, our team and our head coach and everybody taking a day-to-day approach with me, doing everything they can to try and help me out. And I have obviously a ton of, a huge feeling of responsibility to our team to do what's right by them, and I'm trying to do that as best I can day in and day out.
I guess we'll find out sometime next week if Stafford is actually going to play at the beginning of the season, the middle, or even the end. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with the Cleveland Browns in terms of their backup quarterbacks. We know Joe Flacco is going to start off the season. Very peculiar comments. Dylan Gabriel, who's positioning himself to be the either backup quarterback or third-string quarterback going into the season, told reporters that he was not there in Cleveland to be an entertainer. He was there to play football. There were some that maybe thought that was a shot at Shedeur Sanders, who's also getting ready for the next preseason game coming up this weekend. Sanders addressed the comments after practice yesterday.
Honestly, I don't even think about nothing. I don't think about anything. If it's not words or anything, at this point, it can't do anything to me. I know, the God put the ability and the power within me to not even think about nobody else's comments, not care. It is what it is. I spoke with him. He said, nah, bro, that wasn't. He said, that wasn't. He told me on the plane. He came up. He was like, nah, bro, that wasn't at you. I see how they trying to spin. I'm like, oh, all right. I'm not tripping, regardless of whatever it was. Nobody's words or anything affects me, So, yeah.
So did you believe him when he told you it wasn't on you?
Did I believe him? I mean, I feel like you're trying to start stuff now.
No.
I feel like you're trying to start stuff. I mean, he's doing his job. He's supposed to. Do I feel like he did? I don't know. And that's not on me to sit here and be like, oh, he did it. That's not going to change my life in any way.
All right, finally, let's get to some of the brawls going on in training camp. Jaguars getting ready to play the Dolphins. In their practices, things got intense, according to Jags head coach Liam Cohen.
I thought it was physical. That much was pretty obvious on both sides of the ball. I thought there was some physicality. I think you're seeing different defensive structure, different offensive systems. It's great for our guys to just get that good work in. I'll have to watch the tape to see exactly what occurred, but, solid work.
Did you feel like your team got enough work in out there?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we were, they've had multiple joints already. We had none. So to be able to come out and compete against somebody else in general is great. So I do think that it was good quality work for us. Could we have been able to go more just because we're not sure what we're going to do with this next game? Yeah, probably, but it's good to come out of it healthy as well.
How do you weigh what you see out here compared to what you've seen just when it's your team versus your guys?
Yeah, I think you're out of a different comfort zone when you're against somebody else, right? In a different arena, seeing different things. And so maybe things that maybe can get let go in practice when you're just going against each other, well, it's not going to fly. Somebody else is going to probably take advantage of it. So, that was a couple good learning lessons for us in the red zone on both sides of the ball. So it was good.
More NFL discussion with SportsGrid's Adam Kaplan coming up in about 30 minutes from now. Coming up next, Sam McQuillan joins us from Legal Sports Report. Don't go away.
they get some good young pitching, but they can never hit. They got boppers in that lineup. They got electric strikeout guys in the starting lineup for the pitching staff. Like, I feel like I'm rooting that team in, but also not just rooting them in. I think there's a legitimate chance they can take it down, Craig.
Yeah, I think so. Remember, I think I came on your show at the beginning of the season and took Detroit at the beginning of the season with you guys, and now I'm feeling like, hey, I got a shot.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
He played with Bobby Mack, literally had a nervous breakdown the entire round, and by the time they got to the fourth hole, he was losing by a stroke. It was, you think Tommy Fleetwood's a train wreck. You should have seen what this poor guy went through yesterday playing with him.
Yeah, you know what I want to say in this too? Like, the winner gets the entire pot of earnings.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Answer is this. 12-team, 3 wide receiver, you take Jamar Chase. In a 10-team league, though, where you have only 2 wide receivers to start, it's an interesting supply and demand situation with a roster like that. That is where the Bijan number 1 overall maybe comes into play, because you could take Bijan and then turn around. You're still getting 2 number 1 wide receivers in a 10-team league draft.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Welcome back to NewsWire here at SportsGrid. Quick trade in the NFL that just happened, according to ESPN. Brian Robinson, the starting running back for the Washington Commanders the last couple of years, has been traded to the San Francisco 49ers for a late NFL round pick. I believe it is a 6th pick. According to ESPN, Robinson will back up Christian McCaffrey going into the season, and Washington will roll with their rookie running back, and also Austin Eckler is back there as well. All right, not a big surprise there. So let's bring in Sam McQuillan as we move on. And got some new news today on one NBA player who can breathe a sigh of relief, I guess. Malik Beasley, no longer under investigation. And Sam, this is like one of those stories where it's like we feel better about it, but it still does make me wonder why they were investigating him in the past, right?
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder why he was one of just 3 players that have been named in the NBA for a betting investigation ever since sports betting was legalized. Of course, you have Jonte Porter, who was famously banned for life, and you had Terry Rozier, who was actually just partially cleared in an investigation of his own, but it seems like part of that is still ongoing. It's kind of unclear. The league doesn't come out and really announce this stuff. How we found out about Malik Beasley was his lawyer came out today and said that federal prosecutors informed him that he is not a target of the ongoing NBA investigation, which seems to be tied to multiple players or gambling groups that were involved with different players. But for Beasley, it's very unfortunate because he was in line for about $60 million in free agency. He was one of the top free agents, just came off a career year with the Detroit Pistons, was second in the league in 3-pointers. But now if you look around the NBA in free agency, pretty much every team has already spent their cap space. Nobody really has any money left to pay Beasley. The Pistons handed that contract to another player. So you wonder what really went on, because the Pistons were obviously informed that he was under this investigation. That's why, the reports were they were going to sign him, and then all of a sudden they didn't, and then this news came out. So if you're Beasley, maybe you have some questions to answer about what exactly was going on. Maybe not, depending on what your lawyers might tell you. Right. But this, of course, comes, as there's been a lot of scrutiny in the NBA about manipulating player props. Beasley was flagged because a couple of his games, there was a bunch of betting on his unders when he finished actually with very high overs. So that's the same way that they kind of caught Jonte Porter. There was a huge amount of betting on his unders. He left games with injury. And Terry Rozier was flagged for kind of a similar thing. So the league right now is actually calling to what they say, explore looking at limiting prop bets if it's determined that will help curb some of this stuff. So not coming out right out and saying that they want to get rid of player prop bets, but kind of saying they're open to exploring it if it helps prevent this kind of thing. Maybe if it even makes players think twice about doing this kind of thing. Of course, we talked last week about Michael Porter Jr. talking about how easy it is to manipulate this kind of stuff. So latest development in this, I imagine it's not the last we'll hear about an NBA betting investigation. It seems like potentially there could be other players involved, but we'll just have to wait and see what the league says.
All right. Also NBA props could, change significantly, which honestly, Sam, seems like a big surprise to me. But look, I mean, you do have players that are on these 10-day contracts. And I guess this is the fear, is that players can, manipulate the lines or manipulate when they play. It's kind of crazy to me to think that this could even happen, Sam, in this day and age. But look, in baseball, we're seeing guys who are making millions of dollars being investigated too. So maybe we shouldn't be surprised with the NBA getting some pushback on props.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think we're seeing a response to all those investigations as well. Like you have Ohio just came out with their rules that are going to seek to ban micro bets, which aren't just player props, but specific pitches a player throws, what the next pitch a play will be, stuff that you would think could be easily tipped off and might be hard to track. Of course, the two MLB players under investigation were essentially caught or identified because of tracking technology we have about their arm angle. So it's kind of just crazy the amount of the length you can go to kind of find out and figure out this stuff, besides just looking at text messages, besides just looking at phone calls, that sort of thing. But of course, the NBA is advocating for some more reform. We already saw last year they worked with sportsbooks after Jonte Porter to stop offering player props on players that are on two-way contracts, which is the least amount you can make in the NBA. So that kind of was taken by a lot of people as, okay, this makes sense. It's not like we're not offering a LeBron or Steph Curry or something where you actually drive a lot of activity to the black market. It's kind of these players who might be ripe for, this kind of nefarious activity. So we'll see if they go a step further. We'll see what happens. I imagine the sports books will push back if there's a lot of support to ban player props entirely. And I imagine it probably lands somewhere in the middle, given all the pushback.
Prediction markets is the story of the year in sports betting, and it just continues. Robinhood makes the announcement that football and NFL markets are going to be launched on their app soon. The other part of this, Sam, is that, I woke up this morning and saw that crypto.com launched college football today as well. So it just seems like anybody in the prediction markets are just putting their stuff out there at this point. They don't seem to care about anybody telling them no, because no one seems to be regulating them. It's kind of wild.
It's definitely wild, Craig. It seems to be, if you're a regulated federal exchange, a site like crypto.com where you can trade cryptocurrencies, a site like Kalshi where you can trade positions on the outcome of the price of oil, the consumer pricing index, it seems you're just able to offer these markets on sports kind of without any pushback in all 50 states. Again, Robinhood just came out today and said it's partnering with Kalshi to offer NFL spreads this season. So you'll be able to buy a position on, the 49ers plus 3.5 or the Ravens minus 3.5. And they're saying that's not betting. They're saying it's just another form of trading that we do on this exchange. And to your point, the reason they've been able to do that is because it's been largely unchecked. These exchanges say that they're regulated by the CFTC, which has so far not weighed in at all on this subject. A bunch of states have sued to stop these companies from offering what they're saying is legal sports betting. The judges have pointed to the CFTC, saying they have to decide. They're the federal regulator. So ultimately, you just have this huge legal mess right now that has allowed these companies to go in and really do a big business. I think Robinhood already took $9 million on NFL preseason spreads. So when the season itself starts, NFL is the biggest time of year for betting. I imagine people in states like California, states like Texas, where there are no legal betting alternatives, will turn to this. And, if you're a Robinhood user, it's fairly simple to just roll your funds over and bet on these apps. Same with crypto.com. If you're if you trade a lot of cryptocurrency and all of a sudden you see NFL point spreads offered on the same site, you don't have to take any money out. It's pretty easy to do. So we're definitely seeing more and more people getting into this right now. And I imagine it'll only keep going up.
Yeah. And FanDuel, who, probably was sitting back saying, these guys are doing it wrong and we have the license and they don't. I mean, if you're telling me that FanDuel, Sam, is going to get involved in the prediction markets, that sort of tells me that they feel like they have no recourse and they just have to jump on board here or not get paid in these states where sports isn't legal.
Yeah, it's a really interesting business decision. FanDuel coming out yesterday and saying it's going to be the first major U.S. sportsbook to launch a prediction market, which of course are these companies we just talked about with Kalshi and Crypto.com and Polymarket. But they came out and very specifically said they're not going to offer sports prediction markets yet. They're partnering with this group called the CME Group, which is going to kind of handle this exchange for them. It's going to be a standalone app that launches later this year, but everyone is kind of pointing to it's only a matter of time before they do launch sports prediction markets, being able to cater to customers in those non-legal sports betting states. So big move for FanDuel right here. It already has 12 million customers nationwide in sports. So adding more states to that is only going to make it an even bigger business for FanDuel. And the fact that it's the first one here really sets up the dominoes. It makes it seem like they think this is going to be allowed long term, or to your point, Craig, if not, then they just kind of feel like it's something that they need to do to not sacrifice, losing out on this market or losing positioning. They had been on the sidelines for a while saying that, we don't want to piss off states. We don't want to piss off tribes. So you wonder how everyone else is going to react if they do eventually start offering sports. And of course, every other U.S. sportsbook round is going to be looking at the market leader and saying, hey, maybe we need to get in these states, quicker rather than not as well. So yeah, it's very interesting.
It reminds me so much of when Daily Fantasy launched several years ago. I thought to myself, there's got to be a bigger end game than these $1 contests, and it turned out to be sports betting all those years later. Sam, thanks again for coming on. We'll catch up again next week. Have a good weekend. Coming up next, Saturday night, Hawaii and Stanford. Rich Waltz is on the call for CBS Sports.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
It should be illegal for Scotty Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. And obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach, where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It's week 0 of college football. And, I don't know how to say this correctly. It's kind of weird. Maybe Rich has a better term for it. But it is the last game of the first week, which is called week 0. And Rich Waltz is doing it on CBS Sports Network. Hawaii and Stanford. We're bringing Rich in. Imagine me telling you that back in the day, 20, 30 years ago. Rich, you're going to call week 0, and it's going to be the last game. It's going to be in Hawaii. You did it last year, too. So welcome back again.
Yeah, well, with this time zone, it could be week 0.5 because we're almost in week one.
Right.
So, no, look, Hawaii traditionally gets this game because of travel issues and, getting schools to come out. And there's a lot of big name schools that like to come out and play them. Last year was UCLA. The year before, Vanderbilt came out. And this year it's Stanford, who is the most mysterious team in all of college football, right? So they have an NFL head coach who's never coached in college, in Frank Reich. They have an NFL quarterback and great alum, Andrew Luck, who is their general manager. Their roster has been turned over somewhat, especially in the wide receiver room. And they're just a real mystery. What kind of offense are they going to run? Is this going to be the Indianapolis Colts? Is this going to be Stanford with Luck, 3 tight ends, 2 tight ends, slam it in your face, and then play action pass, and Luck goes deep, and all of that. So that's a big mystery. And Hawaii's just such a fun team to cover. They run the run and shoot. It's the traditional island offense that June Jones helped develop, that all the great quarterbacks coming through St. Louis High School or wherever they came from and either played here or played elsewhere ran. So, and they've got a really good young freshman quarterback. So that's kind of the setting for the game on Saturday. 7:30 Eastern is the kickoff, by the way.
Oh, it is. Okay. I thought for some reason it was the last game on the board at Hawaii. Okay. Back to Stanford.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, back to Stanford for a minute.
Okay.
They were so bad in the ACC last year. Was that like exposure just to a better conference, you think, or just? No. I mean, they overturned everything, so it's obvious that it was deeper than that.
Yeah. Here's what's happened to Stanford, and David Shaw had, Harbaugh kind of started the ball rolling. David Shaw had the great run. They were national title contenders for a long time. Stanford's administration, academically and athletically, was really slow to react to the new game of college athletics, and that is transfer portal and NIL. So transfer portal, Stanford was not taking in-season transfer portal guys. That hurt them. Grad transfers, that's, was the ultimate currency in college sports, because you got a guy who's played for 4 years and can step in and really play. You had to actually get into a Stanford graduate program. It's not like Carson Beck, who's been in college 7 years and doesn't have a degree. Stanford was really adamant about, if you're going to come and be a grad student here, you got to get into our business school, law school, or whatever. So, that didn't work. They've been 3-9 for 4 straight years. And that's why they hired Andrew Luck, who retired early from the NFL. Brilliant mind. My analyst, Logan Ryan, on Saturday, former 2-time Super Bowl champ with the Patriots, just talked about playing against Luck and how brilliant he was. And Frank Reich is a really sharp offensive mind, Philly special, ring a bell, and a head coach in the NFL. So that's why they brought Andrew Luck on, to be the face of the franchise. And also part of him coming on was relaxing the transfer portal standards for Stanford, increasing the NIL, making it easier for them to bring players in, because for a while, all they could do was lose players and not gain players. And that's why they were been 3-9 the last 4 years. And I think last year was probably the tipping point for the administration, the alums, president, all of that. It's like, look, we used to be really good at football. We need to change the way we do things. And so that's the deal. And it's really, just listening to Luck talk, and we'll meet with the Stanford coaches tomorrow. I'm really fascinated to hear their vision for what this is going to be.
Now, of course, Rich will be on the play-by-play for CBS Sports on Saturday night, and it is 7:30 Eastern game. I did confirm that here. You would know better than me. I'm confirming for you. So
yeah,
Hawaii,
but I'm 6 hours. Yeah, go ahead.
Hawaii is what a great spot for you 2 years in a row. But I guess the issue is for me is that I think I remember last year I was like, oh, Hawaii at home, they're so tough. It kind of went the other way a little bit last year. They were 5-7. They lost a lot of close games, 3 losses by 3 points or less. They're a slight favorite, Rich, going into Saturday night. I got to admit, I don't know a ton about Hawaii going into this year. We got 2 minutes left.
Really talented offensively, and I think they have the next great Hawaiian quarterback, Micah Elihado. He was actually played at Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. He grew up in Hawaii. He was going to go to St. Louis High School, but then ended up at Bishop Gorman, which is one of the powers in high school football. I think he threw 125 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in 3 years as a starter. Last year, he came here to Hawaii, back where he grew up, and they had Braden Shager, a really good quarterback. So he kind of watched. He got one start at the end of the year, and it was one of the greatest first starts ever by a freshman in NCAA history. Threw for almost 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's a lefty, and he's like Tua 2.0. And I know that's high praise, but the fact that his youth football coach was Tua's dad should give you a little bit of illustration of the bloodlines and the legacy of the position and how good this kid is. They're really excited that they've got the next guy, the next Mariota, the next Jason Gesser, the next Tua, the next Timmy Chang, who's the head coach.
He was, obviously fantastic. 30 seconds left, Rich. Should Boise State win the Mountain West? They're the favorite. Do you think that that's fair? 20 seconds left.
Yeah, they've got continuity. They've got money in that conference. They've got depth. Spencer Danielson, their head coach, really, really good. I think UNLV is probably the team that could, with Dan Mullen, challenge. But right now, if I were to lay money on it, I would go with Boise State.
Great to see you again, Rich. Enjoy the game Saturday.
Hey, man.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
It should be illegal for Scotty Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. And obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach, where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Getting ready for the big weekend. Make sure you catch Front Office Sports each and every day exclusively here on SportsGrid. They're kind enough to provide us a quick clip as to some of the interviews that they're conducting throughout the week. Here's one. Yesterday on Front Office Sports, Pro Fighting League founder Don Davis was on the show talking about media rights and the landscape it could provide for the future.
Let's bring in Don Davis, the PFL co-founder, chairman, and co-owner. Don, good to have you here. Let's start off with this big event. What can we expect in the final?
Well, as you know, the PFL World Tournament is single elimination. March Madness meets MMA. And this is the final 3 championships. We have 8 weight classes, therefore 8 championship final bouts. The final 3 go down Thursday, 9 p.m., ESPN main channel. So fighters get to earn it. You win 3 times, you win 3 times in a row, you win the belt, $500,000, and bragging rights for a full year. So it is going to be fantastic. Middleweights, light heavyweights, and heavyweights tomorrow, Thursday, ESPN main.
Love that. And this also comes at an exciting time with the announcement of PFL Dubai adding 3 new fights. But I do also want to talk about Tuesday as heavyweight fighter Francis Ngannou opened up criticizing PFL Africa in terms of the promotions, the card, and even mentioned you as well. When you have such a big name like that in Francis, how do you manage these fighters and handle things like this when they do come up?
Yeah, you have to focus on the signal, not the noise. PFL Africa has been a real success and a source of overwhelming pride, not just for PFL, but in the MMA community. This year, 2025, has been the best year of fighting inside the cage for PFL. First of all, in the World Tournament, astounding number of fights this year, overwhelming, whether you read Reddit, X, or ask fans who watch on TV. Our best year of fighting ever. From Thad Jean, a real-world Rocky story winning, to Liz Carmouche, the first woman in MMA at age 40, winning her first title. PFL Africa, we staged the first major MMA on the continent. And we're not hitting and running. We're staying. 4 events every year, their own league, not one event, but their own league. All African fighters, all held in the region. Cape Town, sold out. Johannesburg, sold out. We're going to end with the championship in Benin, sold out. So this is so the next Francis Ngannou doesn't have to leave the continent to start his MMA career. Huge sense of accomplishment. And as you said, the last one, a top 5 fight in all of MMA this year, Nurmagomedov, Hughes, Dubai, our PFL Europe type of championship and events. So to me, you have to focus on the signal, not the noise. Is PFL creating opportunities for fighters? Is PFL putting on the very best product? Yes and yes.
Don, some of the rival fighter leagues out there, from UFC getting a big deal with CBS and Paramount Plus to the WWE increasing their footprint as well when it comes to a lot of their distribution partners as well. I'm curious, do you feel like those deals, do they help you guys at PFL? And do you feel like, one, what's your thoughts on the UFC Paramount deal, but also do you feel like it helps you guys when it comes to your future rights deals?
The UFC Skydance Paramount deal was fantastic for them and fantastic for MMA overall. Win, win, win. It will create more opportunities for PFL, which creates more opportunities for MMA fighters. I said first on your show 7 months ago, it would be $1 billion a year. People were skeptical. Some even laughed when I declared this first. It was $1.1 billion a year, and it didn't even include all the UFC content. So it's about 20% more than I predicted, about 40% more than most people predicted. Why is that? MMA is fully mainstream, and MMA should be part of any serious sports portfolio of media companies. You have to rewind the clock to 7 years ago when UFC was acquired by ESPN media rights. There was only one bidder for the UFC media rights 7 years ago, ESPN. One bidder. This time, 5 bidders. So MMA is now mainstream. MMA should be part of every sports portfolio. That clearly benefits PFL when we come up for our media rights renewal next year, because PFL is a substitute product. Unlike other athletes, we have 1/3 of the top athletes in PFL. UFC has 2/3. So this is not like the big 4 sports leagues where the NFL controls all the talent. The NBA controls all the talent, and other leagues have 0. We have 1/3, UFC has 2/3. So it's like soccer, where the Premier League has a lot, but League One, Serie A, Bundesliga has a lot of top athlete talent. So PFL, substitute product. We don't have a substitute brand yet. We're new. We're 6 years old. They're 35 years old. So great for UFC, great for MMA, but the media rights deal, great for PFL next year.
Coming up next, it's time to dive into the latest in the NFL. We'll be joined by our SportsGrid insider, Adam Kaplan, and then former Miami Dolphins wide receiver, O.J. McDuffie. Lots of NFL talk coming up next here on the
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we'd make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach, where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. And obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish joined by our SportsGrid insider, Adam Kaplan. And I think, Adam, we sort of forget that the NFL cycle kind of what it is, where we're so excited for the NFL preseason to come. But truth be told, in the next week or two, we're going to see massive changes to a lot of teams around the league. A lot of guys cut, a lot of guys traded, and it's kind of like a second off season. And we saw a trade today that's maybe not major in the grand scheme of things, but I think deals like the one today are going to happen a lot around the league in the next 10 days.
Yeah, Craig, I would say this. There's been more chatter in league circles about trades. Now, I'm not talking significant trades. I'm talking about a lot of the trades you've seen this week are lower level trades for depth purposes. Or let's get to the Brian Robinson trade. So Brian Robinson had been shopped hard by the Commanders. Why? Well, they like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. We've talked about that. We talked about it over a week ago, about a week and a half ago. I told you that's the guy for fantasy purposes you want to eye on because they're going to wind up moving on for Brian Robinson. And Brian Robinson, actually a productive back, but he doesn't really fit offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury's scheme. He wants an explosive back, better versatility. Austin Eckler is already their third down back. Chris Rodriguez is a power back who will handle a lot of the short yardage stuff. That leaves the explosive Krosky-Merritt eventually to take over the season, but the question will be for carries, what's the volume going to be? It's going to be 10 carries, 12, 14. They'll work through that, but they like him. He's a seventh rounder. He didn't have a lot of college production due to he transferred, so he's looking to get a better role. But the bottom line is he's explosive. They identified this guy early. Robinson became expendable, but I'll tell you this, though. I'll tell you where he's needed is with the Niners. You know about Christian McCaffrey's injury history, which is significant. Great player, but hurt a lot. Isaac Guerrero, his backup. You go back to Louisville. Terrific player, explosive, big injury history. They already have two backups on IR at running back. So this was a need. Adam Peters, the Commanders general manager, came from the Niners. He's very close to John Lynch. This is pretty easy trade to execute. And where there was a need for the Niners, and Washington was heavily trying to shop this player, and they did that. What I find interesting is they kind of knew it. They could not get better than the reported 6th-round pick. Why? Brian Robinson is not seen as explosive, despite the good production that he's had, Craig. Clubs saw him as strictly as a first and second down back, and hence they can only get a 6th-round pick for next season. And both teams have moved on here.
The Commanders was, probably my best pick on all of SportsGrid last season. You almost owed me like a massive dinner. I was like very, very, very close to making that happen.
You said Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I think I said that they not win, but they would get to the Super Bowl. But again, like as the season went on, like you stopped laughing at me a little bit, and at least I got some semblance of reality.
I feel like Daniels, though. I'm very high on him.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that again, though. Like I think that's foolish, is to bank on a team that just overachieved. I think Jacksonville may be my sneaky team this year. I'm not sure about that, but we're not going to do them today. Yeah, let's get into Washington, because they certainly have made the biggest jump of any team in the NFL, going from almost irrelevant to now a potential contender. That's dangerous in some ways, but in some ways it's good, because I feel like they had a nice offseason. They got Deebo Samuel. They signed some little pieces to go along with Daniels, and then improved the defense as well. Did they do enough, do you think?
Well, a couple things here, Craig. So that's a division where we've not had a repeat winner in the NFC East since 2004, when the Eagles were in the midst of winning 4 division championships, 01 through 04. But it's incredible that you only have 4 teams in that division. No one's won it in over 21 years. So it's kind of ridiculous. But if you look at this situation with Washington, I was with them, by the way, yesterday in their last day of training camp. They knew the offseason was developing here to build around what they believe is their franchise quarterback in Jaden Daniels. The trade for Laramie Tunsil. Josh Connolly, who's going to be the right tackle. Andrew Wiley's been filling in, the veteran who came over from the Chiefs a couple of years ago. They're not sure yet about week 1, but Connolly's going to start the majority of the games this season.
Mm-hmm.
So they think that they've got this thing under control. Their offensive line, they overachieved on the offensive line. They know this. We already mentioned the running back position, but I could tell you that my one issue with them, not that I've said this for 2 months, I don't see them trading McLaurin. One way or the other, I expect something to get done sooner, hopefully, for them rather than later. But you take Terry McLaurin off the field. He was there yesterday, but he didn't practice.
Right.
You take him off the field. You got Deebo Samuel, who, by the way, I like for fantasy. Why? He looks great. I know about the injury history. Cliff Kingsbury, their offensive coordinator, is very, very imaginative. He's very creative. I like that. But they have a very light depth issue there. They just don't have a lot behind him. Jalen Lynn, who I really like, who's a slot receiver who they started lining up outside this week because of the issue with McLaurin, and Noah Brown's not ready. He's going to be one of the top backup receivers. So I have an issue there. Their pass rush, they have depth, but they lack, like the Eagles do, that A-level pass rusher. Hence the signing of the older, in his mid-30s, Von Miller.
Mm-hmm. Let me go back to Daniels here for a minute, because I want to show you his props for the season. I want to when I heard about this trade today, this was the first thing I immediately thought of, and I don't know that there's going to be any change in the line here. Adam, is this rushing touchdowns now set super low for him at 5.5? Robinson was the goal line guy. Yep. I mean, Murray used to run a lot in the end zone with Arizona too. I mean, I'm looking at that thinking, without Robinson there, Eckler's not a touchdown guy, generally speaking, and it's a rookie otherwise. Maybe this is a 7 or a 10. It's set at 5.5.
Yeah, I would like the over. Now, my understanding, talking to people who work with Cliff Kingsbury, going back to Arizona, he wants his quarterbacks to run in the red zone area. So I certainly could see that. Now, Chris Rodriguez, I want to mention him, who was a draftee, late round draftee 3 years ago from Kentucky. He's going to be their power back. When they needed to have volume carries, it would be he. He also could have short yardage carries, but he's not Brian Robinson. Let's call it, and I agree. I totally agree with you. I like that over 5.5. I do. I could see 7 or 8. They're not going to overexpose him to goal line carries. And by the way, Daniels is explosive as a runner. He could score from the 10-yard line. It's not so much about goal line carries. It's just about getting the ball in his hands where he's explosive.
And by the way, I didn't realize that the Commanders, at 27 years old on average for their players, are one of the top 5 oldest teams in the NFL. I would have fully assumed that they were one of the youngest without looking into it. But is that skewed by a couple of guys with Miller, et cetera? Is that what happened here?
Yeah, Von Miller at 36, Dietrich Wise, who's going to be a starting end, is really underrated. Yeah, they have some older players, no doubt about it. Zach Ertz, by the way. That's a really good signing. I know he's not the prolific catcher best catcher that he was with Philly. But from a leadership standpoint, okay, he's in his mid-30s, so we have to understand that jacks up their average age. But I also like, again, Jalen Lynn, who I mentioned, who's probably going to be their slot receiver from years to come. Obviously, Daniels. They've got some key defenders also who are relatively young. The team is built to sustain. I like the job that Adam Peters has done. This, to me, I got to tell you, is a very even division now. I know the Eagles right now are the clear projected winner there, and there's no question to win the NFC East at minus 145. But I think it's dead even. Right. And next week, I'll give my picks for sure.
Got it. Okay, minus 135 for Philadelphia, Commanders plus 220, Cowboys plus 550, Giants 22-1, maybe moving up after putting 40 up on the board last night. That was kind of impressive.
So difficult. Yeah, forget the Giants. I like the roster; it's much improved, but their schedule's the hardest in the National Football League.
Yeah, the other thing that I want to ask you about with McLaurin is, by the way, Netflix. I'm going to tie it into Emmitt Smith holding out many years ago for a couple of games, and then they signed him. I can't put McLaurin in that category. Emmitt was the guy that made things go for Dallas at that time, and I was just thinking that last night, like, I wonder how long this would go. I'm not really worried about this, Adam, because Chase wore this contract thing right down to the end too. I'm assuming next week this will get done. Is that fair, or do you think it holds into the regular season?
Well, I know that they haven't made enough progress, but I like that he was at practice. I think that's a positive. He came off PUP last weekend. So he's clear to practice. They got to get this done. And I was talking to an agent who's got a lot of NFL players, and we were talking about this situation yesterday. He goes, all you have to do is someone is willing to drop their price either side. Then you meet in the middle. He said it's not, this agent who's done dozens of deals over the years, he said it's really not a hard negotiation. He's not getting Metcalf's deal, but the Washington really wants to get this done. They want him back. They want to extend his contract. They just have to meet in the middle.
Yeah, Parsons seems further off, to me at least, from reading than this. All right, Adam, have a good weekend. Thanks again.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach, where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. And obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire. Let's get the lay of the land as the Dolphins get ready for their final preseason game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And hosting pre- and post-game duties, of course, will be O.J. McDuffie. Also does the Fish on does the Fish Tank podcast, which is very fun and dives into the history of the Miami Dolphins. It's a must listen. You should check it out. He and Seth Levitt always do a great job on that. And Juice always accommodating as it pertains to coming on this show with me every year. Juice, great to see you again. Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Well, Craig, you know how much I appreciate you, man, for, obviously we talked about it before, man, but giving me a shot on radio, on TV, so anything for you, my man. Much appreciated.
No, of course. And look how far you're going here. You're leaving me in the dust in the
whatever.
in the broadcasting world. So I want to start before we get into like predictions and all that stuff. I mean, you have very strong opinions, which is why you do such a good job on media. The other week, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a reporter, I think he was in Detroit, I want to say, and he was popping off about how the Dolphins just look so bad and they were getting worked. And I saw you rarely go on social media and say, hey, if you're a player on the Dolphins right now and you're seeing that, you got to start punching some people in the mouth. Or I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seemed like that really fired you up. It was very rare for me to see something like that from you.
Well, it was the linebacker from Detroit that was talking about how they practice against us and how soft we are, and they don't practice how we practice and stuff like that. This dude was Mr. Irrelevant, I don't know, at some point in his career. Now he's got a little bit of a career. I would just tell him to shut up, you know what I mean? And if our guys don't read this and use it as fodder, then shame on them, you know what I mean? That's what you look for in training camp. When training camp gets long and boring and, and tough, you look for somebody to pop off in the mouth so you can go out there and bring that extra energy that you're losing because training camp is so tough. So, our guys had a rough, joint practice the first day against those guys, then a great one the next day. And I thought they played a heck of a preseason game against them as well.
Yeah, I felt like they came to the call in that preseason game, especially late. It felt like Coach McDaniel was really pressing to win that game. And look, it's been, a little bit of a mixed bag. And I think, Juice, what I would say is that most folks going into the season, speaking candidly, are down on the Dolphins. It's just a matter of fact as to, for a lot of different reasons, the finish last year, injuries to this year. The only difference that I have an opinion on what some people are saying, and I've said this before here on the show many times, is that I don't understand how everyone has the Patriots so much better than the Dolphins this season. That is something I'm just not understanding. I understand Buffalo is going to win the division, but to me, I still think the Dolphins are the second best team in the division.
Absolutely, man. And I always said, I got to take off my Homer hat right now, Craig, as you know, man, because how I feel about my squad. But for them to jump the Patriots over there, Drake May in his second year now, and Vrabel being his first year there, I just can't imagine that they're better than this Miami Dolphins football team, considering we come back pretty much fully as an offense, which I love about this football team. Mike McDaniel, in his fifth year, fourth year. Tua, in the same system for the longest time ever, with the same weapons that we have, with Waddle, with Tyreek, with Achane, even bringing in a Darren Waller late in the in the training camp. I think that this team is stacked better than it's been in a long time, and the familiarity to the offense is special. But what I really like, though, more than anything, Craig, is what Anthony Weaver's done on the defensive side. I think our front seven is better than most in the league right now. When you go out there and you draft a Kenneth Grant, and you already got Zach Sealer, who's a beast. You got Benito Jones in the middle, but our linebacker play with Brooks, and those guys are special to me. I think they're really, really solid guys, man. Everybody's talking about the corners. Hell, you've got Minkah Fitzpatrick back as well as safety, one of the smartest, most gifted guys yesterday. Heck, I was at practice yesterday, and Minkah was all over the place making plays. So I think this team is being underrated, and I think that's a good thing. You want to be underrated at this point. You want everybody, to think that you're going to be a 5-12 team, which is the worst I've heard about this team, or 8-9 team, or 9-7, or 9-8 team. I think this team is going to definitely contend for the second place in the AFC East, like you talked about. Buffalo is still the cream of the crop in the league, not just in the AFC or AFC East. And so I think that the talk about this team is I think they're mistaken about how bad they think this team can be.
Yeah, I mean, people forget about Minkah Fitzpatrick and how good he is. I think it's also fair to say that they're thin beyond that, but as long as he is healthy, I think that that's a key player back there. So back to the offense, which is, of course, the position that you played at such a high level for so long. So this is what bothered me last season. So you could tell me exactly how you think this is going to go this year. So I saw the first half of the Dolphins season, and I was super encouraged. And Tua was playing great. And wouldn't you know, he got hurt again. He did end up throwing 19 touchdowns and almost 3,000 yards in the 11 games he played, which is fantastic. But I felt, OJ, in watching the games, that there was fear of him getting hurt again, and the offense then scaled back. And a lot of passes to Waddle over the middle, and a lot of passes to Jonnu Smith. No disrespect to Jonnu, who had a great year.
Right.
But it bothered me because I thought, this is not the way that you can win in the NFL doing this. Now, it altered that kind of at the end of the season, but don't the Dolphins just have to throw a little caution to the wind here? And I mean, I know they want to protect Tua, but don't they have to win games and throw to Tyreek and go deep like they were doing a couple years ago?
Absolutely. I mean, you're right. I agree with you, Craig. I think there was a little more of a dink and dunk, more of a Tom Brady style offense at some point right there. But Tom Brady also took shots at times. And so I think that no matter what, we got to get guys out of on the other side of football, on the defensive side that's playing against us, out of that cover 2 shell. Everybody's up on the line of scrimmage kind of deal. And, we dink and dunk because, we are worried about Tua getting hit. Tua's got to sit in there and take some shots. We've got to take some shots as an offense. And I think that is critical for every team. If you let guys get up there in Tyreek's face or Waddle's face, you got to be willing to take shots down the field and get them out of that cover 2 shell.
Yeah, and by the way, an underrated part of this season is, listen, whatever you want to say about Tyreek Hill, here's what I want to say. The guy wants to get paid again. He needs to get paid again. So I think he is going to show up in a big way this season. Real quick, 30 seconds to go. Matthew Judon and Darren Waller, 2 names added to the Dolphins over the last couple of months. Can they have a big impact?
I think Judon is special still. And, I thought we were loaded at that position, but I think you bring in another guy like Judon, you get, the guys back that we have. I think it's going to be a special group of guys that can get after quarterbacks. And Darren Waller, you have to be determined. I saw him at practice yesterday. Didn't see him do anything. We'll see what he brings to the table. Otherwise, our wide receivers are going to have to do it all like we always do.
All right, Jude. Thanks again for coming on. Great to see you.
Anytime, Craig.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we'd make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach, where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Passing offense is him, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They have Jahan Dotson. They just recently traded for John Mechie from the Houston Texans. Now, obviously, yes, Saquon is there, but a lot of people are expecting the Eagles to have an increase in their passing rate this year. They won't rely as heavily on Saquon, and it should just mean more volume overall. Obviously, Brown was fantastic, and he did so in not playing a full season last year.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Fun weekend of football coming up. We'll tell you more about that just in a minute from now as we get ready to wrap up the show. We'll get into the latest with the Savannah Bananas and just how profitable they are in some areas. Notre Dame makes a switch to their logo. And also Urban Meyer, former NFL and college football coach, has an opinion, isn't afraid to share. Time now for some last licks. Savannah Bananas have become way more than the Harlem Globetrotters ever were. I know that's probably harsh for some who are older and was like, oh, I went to the Harlem Globetrotters in the past. Yeah, I mean, you did. And they sold out a lot of places. They sold out arenas. They did not sell out stadiums. Savannah Bananas are the biggest thing going right now, honestly, like outside of professional sports. A recent economic study says the Bananas, 2 games in Charlotte, North Carolina, generated an economic impact of $38.6 million. 2 games in Charlotte. 148,000 people attended over 2 days, and half of those, 50%, according to a study, traveled 50 plus miles. Why? Because, yeah, I mean, think about North Carolina. No Major League Baseball, minor league baseball stadiums. They sell out football stadiums. They sell out baseball stadiums. It's just, I mean, really one of the big stories in sports and investments over the last 5-10 years. They've just been must-watch TV. Of course, they have their own broadcast now. So great job by the Savannah Bananas, making money for the city of Charlotte, making money, I'm sure, for themselves as well. Urban Meyer, never afraid to share his thoughts, former coach at the University of Florida and then Ohio State, and then, of course, went to the New York or Jacksonville Jaguars, excuse me, thinking of somebody else. Urban Meyer the other day goes on a podcast and has something to say about his old buddy at Michigan, not surprising, Jim Harbaugh. So regarding Jim Harbaugh's NCAA punishment, Meyer says that the NFL owes it to the league to suspend Harbaugh in the NFL because of things that he did in college. How about that? And the reason why is because this happened to Jim Tressel at Ohio State. Tressel got in trouble with some improprieties. Ironically, never coached a big school again, but did go to the NFL as an assistant coach, and then they ended up suspending him. So Meyer says because that happened, it has to happen with Harbaugh and the Chargers. Now, as we know, Harbaugh is going to have a hard time coaching college football ever again. He's got this show clause or cause that is like 2 decades, like 20 years, which basically says that he has to prove that he's worthy of coaching in college again. It ain't happening. He's going to have to stay in the NFL. So, needless to say, is Urban Meyer right? I mean, technically he kind of is with the precedent set by Tressel, but I also don't know exactly what the dynamics were. What did Tressel do versus Harbaugh as well? So, I think Urban Meyer is just mad because he's an Ohio State guy and Harbaugh is a Michigan guy. That's just me. All right, none of them are Notre Dame guys or girls. Did you know the Fighting Irish, by the way, going into the season have changed their logo? I did not know that. Take a look. So that old logo that used to have the little Irish guy, leprechaun, right? Fair leprechaun, right? I hope I get that right. Yeah, he had his fists up, and they don't want to have that anymore. So now they got him running for his life. That's the new logo for Notre Dame. Now, again, it's not on the helmet, right? But either way, they just have that, was it gold helmet? What do they call it? Scarlet? Something like that. Gold. Right, but it's not, they don't show that little guy there, the little leprechaun. Either way, that's their new logo. And those of you who are big Notre Dame fans, why is this happening? Probably not as much about the fight as it is to get you to buy more stuff. And you will, because that's what we do. That'll do it for our show today. Thanks again to Bill Bender for coming on. Also, Sam McQuillan, Rich Waltz. Also, Adam Kaplan and O.J. McDuffie. Big story of the day comes from the NFL in terms of trade. Brian Robinson, who was on the Washington Commanders as of a few hours ago, is now headed to San Francisco. He's going to be the backup running back to Christian McCaffrey, and to be determined as far as who Cliff Kingsbury uses in Washington as their running backs as well. All right, let me give you the schedule, by the way. Coming up, we've got on Saturday, getting you ready for the games at 12 o'clock Eastern. It'll be Gabe and Cam, and then they will carry that first game on the college football board through 3 o'clock Eastern. Then Joe Ranieri and Scott Wetzel at 3 p.m. Eastern, and then through the night, including that Stanford-Hawaii game Adam Kaufman and Brady Cannon. They have you covered as well. And if you want to learn more about this scheduling and sports betting and all the picks against the spread, just download the SportsGrid app and just take out your phone, scan that QR code. Everything that I'm telling you is available on that app as well. Thanks again to Luke, and for our director, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. I'll be back at 3 o'clock Eastern for Fantasy Sports Today. If you're a NewsWire fan, then I'll see you Monday at 12 Eastern for our next edition of the show as we get you ready for week 1 of college football.